Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Z's and Zers. This is another edition of the Armenian Council for Truth in Journalism. I'm your humble host, Thaddeus Preston, aka Nick Way. And please, please, please follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Tribune Media International or TMI. I don't know. I'm already screwing up the intro. I'm a little off my game. We don't have producer Jay, but I do have my main man, my partner in crime.
We're going to be following
my
everyone
future
on shortwave
cellmate.
radio. That's right. We're all headed to the gulag. We are all headed to the gulag. That is all there is to it.
All right, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Just chop it up in the comments. Let's make it a little rowdy, even though we're a little off. We're down a couple men.
We could always just throw the stream key out tonight in the comment section too, and really get weird.
That would no. I don't think I want to. I don't think I don't want.
You don't want to deal with the logistics of that.
I don't want to deal with logistics of that, and I don't want to deal with the crazy that we might incur. Which is, we love you because you're crazy, but Thaddeus is grumpy tonight.
Why are you so grumpy, Thad?
Old man ailments, baby. Old man ailments, and I will leave it at that. So,
how old are you?
I don't even. You know what, man? I don't remember. I have to think about it. Let me do some math. 41. Okay.
Well, so, as you well know, you are by far my parents' favorite council member. Always have been. And
wow,
they were asking me how old you were, and I was like, I don't know. It's like a little older than me, I think. So I think that worked out well. I think the
grade gives me away.
Interesting. Here's something interesting. I was looking at the average age of those who've been picked up for the Capitol insurrection.
Okay.
Since we're on the subject of age,
all right,
that might be slightly interesting. Probably not that interesting, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up because
we need
as
content,
long as
brother.
I can keep talking while I'm searching on my phone.
That's really keep the content about, right? going while we figure this out.
Here we go. Age at time of arrest, which is apparently quite important as well. But the large majority were between the ages of 30 and 39.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting to note that there were some between the ages of 70 and 79. So far, there's 5 between the ages of 60 and 69. And and right around 20 between the ages of 20 and 29. That's probably all Antifa.
Yeah. People who have, but the 30 to 39 is very interesting. It's also a very particular men of fighting age, former men of fighting age range.
Yeah.
It's something to be concerned about, I think.
Gender, I mean, obviously, 102 out of the 117 are male.
Yeah.
15 are female. And the large majority came from the state of Texas.
There's something one can say about that. Do tell. No, well, they're a bunch of white supremacists and insurrectionists, right? That's what we're told, right? I mean, it's funny. It's funny too how the lying sack of shit John Brennan gets who has a contributorship on CNN. You do understand that he's the former director of the CIA, and it is their job to lie. It's spread propaganda, but that's beside the point. He's getting on there lumping white supremacists and racists and misogynists and all these ists.
Yeah,
and then he throws in libertarians.
It's everything that doesn't support the regime. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It's like now we're seeing how Twitter and these different social media platforms are starting to go after Antifa. Well, no shit. How long have we sat here and we've talked about useful idiots, and we could talk about them on both sides.
Oh yeah.
Of whatever perceived paradigm there is. Which the more I look at it these days, I'm just like whatever.
It's all part of the plan.
You damn right it's part of the plan, and the plan is to put us all in the gulag.
It's definitely to instill enough fear in the populace, particularly the people. Look, there's a certain segment of the population who will see this insurrection, who are blue-pilled, who will be like, well, whatever. And here's the deal. It's not a fucking insurrection. I hate the fact that I even use their language.
It's ridiculous for them
It's ridiculous that they even do that. Yeah, right, because here's the deal. Calling it actually an insurrection has legal implications, which is why they're fucking doing it. It's why it's the word that the press is putting out in the zeitgeist. And, you know, if just like we discussed with Pat last night, man, and, you know, Lou brought it up too, and the story finally surfaces. The WHO puts out the warning, like, yeah, those PCR cycle thresholds, a little too high. We should
why don't you just calm that down?
Man, we bring that down a little bit.
Slow the testing down.
Yeah. I tend to remember a former president who said such a thing. Yeah. And everybody went when he did.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I mean, we could do this for 4 fucking years, guys. It's going to get redunculous. It's actually going to get gross. It's going to get gross.
Yeah, if this keeps going, there's no way we do this for 4 years, Thad.
Oh, well.
There's just no way.
Yeah. I think I'm starting to believe you. I'm starting to believe you. Yo.
Well, it's like, you know, and you know, speaking with Pat last night, give me a break. You know, you can sit there and people can try to discredit the man and everything else, but
even if you thought that our guest last night was crazy, I don't think he's wrong. No. Because I think we see it. I did not have the opportunity to even bring up with him what would he think this tool, right? He called it IIA operational tools used in the thing that we talked about like last year when the anti-SARS protests were going on in Nigeria. Yeah. And you could see the anatomy of how that built over time and the funding that came through the Byzantine levels of nonprofits that were trying to do this, and like the social media presence, and the fact that the people who were doing the End SARS hashtag, a lot of those people had just joined Twitter in the last couple weeks before it really blew up.
Yeah, I mean,
SARS has been a thing for a while. Yeah.
You know, what must that be like? I mean, you've got all these people, and then all of a sudden they've got this social media, and they're starting to interact with each other. They're a bunch of normies. Number one, they're not going to be able to pick out trolls, and even if you can pick out trolls, you know, again, from my experience in the whole thing, you never know who you can trust anyways. And that's the more I've thought about it, is just this incredible manipulation that we've seen. Yeah. And that's really the enemy when I look at it. Stu Peters, you know, just posted, our old friend Stu Peters. Everybody go check out the Patriotically Correct radio show. You know, and he just posted, you know, just a few minutes ago where he said, you know, you're either a patriot or a traitor, and there is no middle ground. The problem is that I think it's become increasingly difficult to tell who the patriots are and who the traitors are, because every bit of that is manipulated on some level. Yeah, it's horrifying the way our data is used against us.
Yeah, to think that they don't do this A/B. Well, Facebook for the longest time was until, I mean, I don't even think until it's been the largest social experiment on user data and the true and apotheosis of big data and how it could be used. Yeah, they're selling the analytical tools now. It's a little harder to sell that data that feeds these analytical tools, but to think that FAIR and OpenAI and DeepMind, which is basically a division of Alphabet, i.e. Google, FAIR being a research organization or profit center for Facebook, these AI systems, you know, not to really dispute what Pat was talking about, but it's not just analytics anymore. It is machines using these analytical tools to teach machines. Yeah, and yeah, dude, it's an info war. Not to take.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's always been an information war.
So. Well, it's the machines, you know, just taking over. They're just taking over.
So, like I said, as a Naval Ravikant once said, and I'm basically paraphrasing, this is an angel investor and a pretty smart dude, waxed eloquently once, you either learn to tell the machines what to do or get used to having the machines tell you what to do. Yeah. And recognize that you, in a lot of instances, a lot of things that are driving your purchases, your habits, whatever, is driven by machines. In one way, shape, or form.
Well, and I think as we look at what could now really start to be labeled as the rise of the technocracy, under the
Yeah.
guise of communism.
Or other
Is
actually,
really how it seems. It's almost like you've got this stepping stone kind of situation going on.
Even the term social media, social this, social capital, social. It's almost like throwing social justice or join social, or what is it, social equality, or throwing these buzzwords together that feel good and give you a warm fuzzy right here. Yeah, it's heartbreaking actually, but yeah, it's now I see it, and I've been seeing it for a decade because I do this occasional quarterly show. It feels like called "Thank You for Your Service," where we discuss this stuff in like great detail, and the practitioners of this, the people who know how to implement and use this technology, the men and the women who will become billionaires and trillionaires because of this technology, don't have your values.
No,
they simply don't.
Well, the more I think about it, again, it's a situation where you're watching this rise. You're starting to see how it's all just taking over. We all just feed our data in. They're like, take your food, stay at home, all of that. And eventually we're going to be slaves. Now, the interesting thing is that there's a certain percentage of the population that will never be okay with that. Yeah. And one almost has to wonder if it is somewhat, genetically inclined. We talk about genetic influences for all sorts of other things. Well, maybe there's a predisposition towards, freedom, and they've, labeled that as any other, psychological disorder or anything else. But
yeah, you're right. I think so.
And I, furthermore, I guess that's what gets me to the point that maybe that's in the end when you're seeing the rise of a totalitarian, authoritarian rulership in the most stark of terms, the most evil of situations.
A true oligarchy.
That the first thing they need to do is identify the particular people that are going to be problematic when it comes to being a good slave. And so maybe the best way to do that is you start to agitate these people on all sides of all political spectrums, because in the end, those political spectrums are not what you're after. What you're after is seeing who's rebellious. So you're using these data points and you're using all this analysis and AI learning and everything, and you're applying it to human beings. And then you're pushing them to do things that expose themselves. And then when they expose themselves, that allows you to hunt them down, imprison them, murder them, leaving the rest of the population much more subservient, which when you look at the Cultural Revolution in China, they did that without technology.
Right. Right. This has been a thing. This is, and you've kind of dovetailed into something that I've said a lot, is the part about social engineering and why it's such a cold science, and it seems to work all the time, is it's just human anthropology. The human condition is always to be free, to be allowed to do whatever. But the moment there's a threat posed, the human species tends to outsource security because they want safety. And so they look to authority.
Yeah.
And that's generally the way it works. And I've just seen it throughout history, and you see it happen because while the human need to be free is eternal, it's constant. Even you see it even in nature when you capture an animal or anything like that. What overrides that more than anything is fear, and fear means I need something to make me safe, and this thing that makes me safe, the thing I have been taught that to basically have reverence for, this physical manifestation that was the capital, and to see it be assaulted, and to see violence in the streets, and to see the anointed, and what you're told is the holy capital, to have it desecrated. People are going to look to a king, and that king is the state, and it's always been the state, and the state is always, I repeat, always had this kind of, once it has rule, it must build mechanisms and systems to maintain its rule. And it does it through useful idiots. It does it through a certain social caste. that is indoctrinated and told and taught to go forth and teach the people that the state is to be revered, the state is to be respected because the state keeps you safe. Yeah, I'm getting all Rothbard for a second, but that's simply the way it works. And now we just have technological tools that can inflict this terror on people like you and me who are just like, this is obviously
and part of the problem is the very tools that have been the only real. Now we're going to use the word legal because I know a lot of people haven't always obeyed the stay-at-home orders.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just stick with that term. So they've been the legal way for people to stay connected, and now it's all being turned as the legal way for them to determine your guilt. And it's being done without any real sort of consent or anything else, which kind of leads me right into what I was saying earlier, when we were in the chat. And I don't know if people have seen this. I know it was reported on Forbes. I know Breitbart was reporting it as well. But Facebook has basically turned over the data of anybody that was at the Capitol over to the FBI.
And here's the deal, fam. They have to do that when a national security letter or some sort of FISA-like document is issued. This is why the collusion between all the social media platforms and the platforms that were stages for Parler. I'm wondering if, not to give Amazon or Apple or Google or anyone who effed Parler the benefit of the doubt, but I wonder if those were national security letters that demanded that they do these things and stuff like that. And obviously, I know with Facebook, it's definitely a national security letter.
Well, I question whether or not anything actually had to be done. Sure, they're going to write a letter and back it up, but I have no reason to believe that information wasn't already being shared.
Oh,
if there's anything I've learned about the nature of the state and the nature of government is that they do whatever the fuck they want, and then if they run into a legal problem, they just hope they've got some framework to back it up, especially in regards to intelligence agencies.
Well,
these guys basically operate with no rules,
particularly outside the United States. They operate under the perceived rules within the domestic context, but we can see from the Russia collusion hoax and how they entrapped General Flynn that they can get around that pretty easily.
Yeah.
But here's the deal: Facebook, as a massive infrastructure, as a massive company, as a massive data store, is a leaky sieve. They might have had everything they needed, but to go after people, they needed subpoena-like national security letters or subpoenas, because they probably, you're right, had the information anyway. Because how do you know that they don't set up fake international companies and just get an API key and then look at the social graph, right? I mean, there's nothing against, or better yet, because I'm a free market guy, they might have just went to a company. The CIA through some shadow company could have just went to an international company and just got them to create this thing, do his API key. It might actually be a private business in another country that's getting that information. It's just being funneled back to the CIA. And then when it was or FBI or whatever domestic spying organization we have or investigatory agency we have, and then basically what ends up happening is, oh crap, we actually have to start prosecuting people. We better start issuing letters for this information we already have.
Yeah.
And that's really how that works.
Yeah, I mean, they had all the information, and it's funny with even with me being there, it's like I knew that's the way it was going to work. It's not any surprise to me.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a pile of stuff, and like I told you in the chat, I sure hope they like looking at my dick.
Because if they just turned over all that stuff,
but I start to think of that and the implications there too, where it's like they're basically looking at a bunch of stuff that was never intended for them under the guise of national security. Now, as some people, and maybe not so many of my new followers, but some of my old followers know, there's a treasure trove in my data, and it's all over the place.
It's magnificent. It's gross. It makes you want to go and take a shower.
Yeah,
naked in the shower crying.
Pretty much.
It's but some of it is,
it's just too much.
Spank worthy.
I can just see these agents sitting there with their subpoena from with their permission from Facebook now, and they're just going through everything that I've ever said or done in on Facebook. That's a horrible job.
Oh my God,
It was
man.
a horrible job. I almost have pity on them, but
Well, it's funny how horrible the job is. It's actually true in a way. So, contrary to popular belief, which is a lie, there are not algorithms looking at problematic posts. There are actually human beings in other countries looking at these problematic posts. A lot of these motherfuckers get PTSD because some of the shit that we don't see on Facebook is being flagged by other people,
I
and it's pretty fucking disturbing.
No, I remember that when all that came out, it was reported that they were all getting PTSD from
Because of
doing
they're
their
seeing
job.
murders
Yeah,
and sex acts and terrible shit. You're like,
years ago, there was we had this group, and this guy went live in the group that,
uh-huh.
and he just started cutting the shit out of himself.
What the?
Yeah. I'm not even talking a little bit. I'm not even talking like cries for help. This dude was like butchering himself on a live stream in the group, and we're watching this, and we're like, oh my God, it was pretty horrible.
It's funny. These things were supposed to be beautiful and allow human beings to connect, like you and me connect, but
Right.
Inevitably, people are fucked up, and people tend to ruin these platforms. And it's funny is how they want to basically mechanize or some sort of algorithmically try to make Twitter, Facebook, all these platforms better places for, but people are fucked up, bro. And they're going to find a way around this shit.
Well, and it's like, kids are getting on this stuff all the time. And it's just an uphill battle. It's like going back to what we were talking about, where you kind of get rid of the people who are free thinking, and you try to limit your population to those that are subservient when you're doing these sorts of totalitarian takeovers. They have an entire generation of kids who literally don't know what they would do without their devices.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, it's what should have happened during this lockdown is not cutting people off from like communication with other people. It's just like social media blackouts, like EMPing data centers and causing people to have to like go outside and like, whoa. That would have probably been.
Q kept telling us that was going to happen, but it looks like they just keep moving the goalposts.
No. There's still a way that Trump can stay president.
It kills me. It makes me think like it's kind of like Zaphod Beeblebrox running around, with the improbability drive. And so they're basing all this stuff just off of things that are highly improbable. Are they possible? I suppose they're possible on some level. Anything's possible. Hell, it's 2021. We saw how 2020 was, but it's so highly improbable that it's like I don't know how to impart to people that belief in that is really strange. And incidentally, if they're Christians, I just want to say every time I think about Q and I go back to my own Christian upbringing and reading Revelation, kind of reminds me a lot of the false prophet. So I don't know how y'all feel about that, but
I had a friend of mine that would always call me and yell at me, and this is going to make my more religious probably viewers upset, who would always call me in the 2000s about the coming of Jesus, get saved, do whatever, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, and so one day I just posed the question, and not that I'm not a believer, it's just that I don't believe that Jesus is going to come back and just end it all just because he wants to. He's just like, dude, so why are you going to the gym, getting manicures, lifting weights, getting education, looking for a job? Why are you striving for all this if all this shit's just going to end when the Messiah returns?
Yeah, there's like this nihilistic. Sorry, I was being narcissistic. I'm so beautiful. Anyways, but there's this nihilistic attitude about it, and there always has been. And I think that that's an undercurrent within a lot of these religions and end time prophecies and everything else. And so when you see something like Q, it really resembles, the rise of another religion.
Correct.
And the problem
you see it with climate change. You see it with wokeness. You see it with the narrative of racism that seems to be perpetual. You see it in every narrative that exists. And to me, because we've become more secular, which is, I guess fine if that's what you want, because, when we go too far down the religious route, people, if you're a witch, you drown. If you're a witch if you drown, you're a witch if you float. You float. Either way, you're a witch. We don't want to get back to that. No. But basically, yeah, people have now substituted, things that are pretty tried and true for things that are just I mean, just as whimsical, just as like flimsy. Except I think I give Judeo-Christian and even to a lesser extent Buddhism and Islam, the less violent kind, more props for having a lot more of a lineage than this current stuff that we worship.
Well, yeah, it becomes traditional. It becomes traditional, but I think you're libertarian minded, but statism is a religion.
Damn right. It's one of the most dangerous religions, to quote Larkin Rose.
Exactly. And to think otherwise is just foolish.
Right. To think that science can't be religious in nature.
And there's a huge difference between statism and patriotism.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to you have to understand that. And I think we've unfortunately allowed someone to hijack that narrative and make the two conflate. I don't know, man. That's pretty dire. Thanks, Sean. In the meanwhile.
Yeah.
Remember her?
Oh, wow.
So this is Ashanti, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, it's been a long time since I just had a good gander at her.
Yeah, this is what she looks like now. Okay.
Wait, what?
Dude.
No.
She's over 40 years old.
Wait, what?
Yes.
No, that's highly filtered.
Yeah, and this so is this one too, right? To be blunt. I mean,
yeah, and that's all fine and good, but I was actually enjoying this. I'm a face guy, to be honest. I'm pretty lame like that. Man, that is just a lovely face.
Wow. So it's funny because she kind of trended on Twitter in the beginning of the pandemic. She was talking with Fat Joe, and everybody was like, Twitter was blowing up. It's like, oh my God, have you seen Ashanti? And like, how the hell she look the same? And then like you look, I'm like, that's not fair. It makes me.
Whatever happened to her? Did she just kind of get out of the game, or
she
what?
has? Well, according to I think she came out with an album. I don't know if it was recently.
Yeah,
I'd have to look.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, she just kind of. I thought she had an album that had just came out. I know she was doing movies for a little bit too.
Yeah.
And because look at her.
But that was like 20 years ago. That was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're forgetting just how old we are.
Yeah. No, apparently she came up with something in 2019. So, I mean, she's still in the game. I mean,
would have known. And how does the game even work?
These days, I don't understand what they're doing. I mean,
I think when I, my 11 days on TikTok, in my 11 days on TikTok, I absorbed a lot. As he came out with a country rap, I'm gonna need to hear that garbage.
You're gonna need to post a
Michaela,
link to that,
please send us the hot garbage.
Yeah, please. Hey, to come in at the
motherfucking Lou, you shut up for a minute. I'm in the middle of a point. Shut up. All right. Point being, so the 11 days on TikTok or whatever, and all that crap, and you start to realize that it's just certain songs that play all the time, right? And you only get them for like 30 or 60 seconds. So I got kicked off TikTok, but I'm sitting here and I'm listening to my moon as she goes through her TikTok, and it's just fucking irritating because you hear the same fucking song over and over again, different videos, and everybody's putting the same thing, and I realized that that's it. They have taken what used to be, 2 minutes on radio was what they wanted?
Yeah.
Usually they wanted 2-minute songs typically. They've cut that down to 20 seconds. So you're just talking about the lifespan of these artists now. So once they sign their contract with the executives in their blood to Satan, and they get that out of the way, I mean, just think about how their careers are going to be as we move into the future. I mean, we also saw what happened to Britney Spears, and that was back when you could do 2-minute songs.
Yeah.
It's going to compress every one of their lives. It's not going to be Club 27
anymore.
It's going to be Club 14.
They're getting like fractions of a cent per play.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the record company is. We don't know what the artist is getting.
Yeah, we don't know what they get.
And of course, they can't tour now.
It depends on whether or not they like spirit cooking.
Yeah. Because then you get Lady Gaga money.
Yeah, you get that Lady Gaga money. You're dressed up in some Hunger Games outfit.
Yeah, dude, come on. Do they not understand? Do they not understand how that looks?
I am actually don't have any weed. Oh, wait,
don't worry about it. Just your face. Your very face.
Synonymous with being
everybody.
Synonymous with being high. Well, guys, the ultimate survival tool is the flick wick, and it has a hemp wick, and it helps maintain your fuel, and that way you don't have to also smoke it when you're smoking weed. Because I know you like good tasting weed. Shop.flickwick.com.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Lou. And with that said, goodbye, Lou. And any closing thoughts?
You can start playing the music, and maybe I'll think of something. Maybe I won't.
And now, a moment of zen.
Oh, yes. As we all sit here and we look at Ice Bay, just remember, things might be cratering. They're cratering. Have a good night.